year 300 BC, in a world where kingdoms fight for supremacy, three royal families are engaged in a merciless war. As the conflicts escalate, ancient dragons, forgotten for centuries, emerge, changing the course of history forever. Tensions between the kingdoms reached a fever pitch as resources became scarce and the fertile lands of Verador were claimed by all. War broke out, plunging the peoples into endless chaos. However, in the remote mountains, long-forgotten legendary creatures lay dormant, the dragons. Their awakening, brought about by human conflict, brought a new era of terror and hope. Young Prince Kyle, in search of peace, discovered the secret of the dragons. Guided by the wise dragon Saphira, he sought to unite the enemy kingdoms against a common threat. Thus began an epic where unlikely alliances were forged, and where the fate of the kingdoms was played out in flames and ashes.
Please hear my plea. Our people have suffered too much from this senseless war. It is time to end this destruction and seek a path to peace together. Even the dragons cannot save us if we do not change our hearts. We must find a solution before everything we love is reduced to ashes. Let us join forces, not for war, but to rebuild what has been lost and provide a better future for our children. The time for hatred must end, and the time for cooperation must begin.
Lionel, your words resonate with a wisdom I cannot ignore. The war has broken us all and taken far too many precious lives. I see the truth in your eyes and the pain we share. Perhaps it is finally time to put aside our quarrels and build a better future. I am willing to consider an alliance, not out of weakness, but out of hope that our kingdoms will prosper once again. Let this meeting be the first step toward the peace we all deserve.
Your open-mindedness and willingness to change the course of things gives me hope. Together, we can heal our lands and offer our people a new chance to live in harmony. May our alliance be the beginning of a new era, where dragons will no longer be weapons of war, but symbols of peace and wisdom. Thank you for trusting me. Together, we will build a world where our children can grow up without the fear of conflict.
Your words bring a glimmer of hope in this dark time. If we join forces and hearts, I believe we can accomplish great things. Let this alliance be sealed not only by our words, but by our actions. I pledge to work for the peace and prosperity of our realms and to honor the trust you have placed in me. Together, we will restore to our people the dignity and security they deserve. May the dragons be witnesses to our pact and guardians of our shared future.
Ma chère Lyria, j'ai besoin de votre aide plus que jamais. La cour est emplie de complots et de mensonges, et je ne sais à qui me fier. Votre loyauté et votre sagesse ont toujours été mon refuge. Aidez-moi à naviguer ces eaux troubles et à trouver la vérité. Ensemble, nous protégerons notre royaume des ténèbres qui le menacent.
Princesse Elowen, je suis honorée par votre confiance. Je serai toujours à vos côtés, fidèle et dévouée. Nous affronterons ces complots ensemble, et je veillerai à ce que vous soyez en sécurité. La vérité trouvera son chemin, et avec votre courage, nous triompherons des ténèbres. Votre peuple a besoin de vous, et je ne laisserai rien ni personne vous détourner de votre juste voie.
Voici votre dîner, Princesse Elowen. Profitez de ce plat préparé spécialement pour vous.
Vous êtes très aimable, dit à la cuisinière qu'elle peut se reposer jusqu'à demain.
A little prince was born beneath the twinkling stars, his first cry echoing like a promise in the night. Destined to belong to a great family of fighters, his legacy was forged in courage and honor. The knights gathered to celebrate his birth, swearing to protect and guide him. The elders already prophesied his future victories and bravery. Thus, the young prince began his journey, ready to embrace his glorious destiny.
That night, the king came to announce sad news to the queen. His face was serious, tears in his eyes. The queen, feeling the anguish in the air,
My dear queen, I bring heartbreaking news. Your youngest son, your precious heir, has been killed on the front lines. He bravely faced a dragon in the enemy region, but the beast got the better of him. His sacrifice will not be in vain, but our hearts mourn his loss. May his courage and honor be forever etched in our memories.
How this pain is unbearable. Our son, our dear child, taken so young and so brutally. How can our hearts bear such loss? But he showed courage and bravery that we must honor. We must remember him not with sadness, but with pride. His memory will live on in us, and we must continue to be strong for our people, as he would have wanted. May his sacrifice inspire our kingdom to find peace and justice for all.
the crown prince was buried with all the honors due to his rank. The entire nation gathered to mourn his loss, their faces marked with sadness. Flowers were placed on his tomb, a symbol of his courage and bravery. His memory would remain etched in the hearts of his people forever. Jumped to her feet, her heart heavy. She knew that the words that were to follow would change their lives forever. The prince's mother sobbed inconsolably before her son's coffin. She remembered his childhood laughter, his first steps, and the dreams he had for the future. The courtiers, also in mourning, bowed their heads in respect. His memory would remain etched in the hearts of his people forever, a symbol of a legacy cut too soon. Huge crowd gathered to pay homage to him. The people who respected him deeply mourned the loss of this young prince so loved. His absence would leave an immense void in the hearts of all those who had known him.
Citizens of our kingdom, in these troubled times, we face not only the tragic loss of our prince, but also growing conflicts between the kingdoms and the persistent threat of dragons. Old alliances are fracturing, and tensions are rising daily. Our neighbors, once our allies, are becoming rivals, hungry for power and territory. Dragons, once myths, have become a terrifying reality, ravaging our lands and villages. We must prepare to face these challenges with courage and wisdom. I call upon you to stand united, to support our warriors, and to protect our people. Together, we will find solutions to restore peace and prosperity. May our resolve be as fiery as the fire of the dragons and our unity as strong as the ramparts of our fortresses. The future of our kingdom depends on our ability to overcome these trials and forge new alliances for the good of all.
Princess Zeriana made the decision to send her dragon to fight the enemy.
brave warriors. Today we face fearsome foes, men without honor and dragons whose breath burns our lands. But we will not give in to fear. These creatures, as terrifying as they are, do not know the strength of our resolve. Together, we will fight to protect our kingdom, our families, and our heritage. May the fire of the dragons not be the one that consumes us, but the one that forges our courage. Onward, for glory and for victory.
Despite the smoldering ruins of their village, the people of the kingdom refused to give in to despair. Fueled by fierce determination, they organized themselves to fight against the relentless attacks of dragons and enemy armies. Men and women, young and old, joined forces to build barricades, forge weapons, and dig ditches around the last remaining houses. Children, once terrified, became courageous messengers, carrying news and supplies between the different factions. Each day brought new challenges, but their spirit of resistance did not waver. Together, they fought for their survival, for their freedom, and for the honor of their kingdom.
In the great hall of the royal palace, the king stood in the center of the room, surrounded by his most loyal warriors. Candles lit the serious faces of the men present, while silence weighed heavily on the assembly. The king, a look of determination on his face, spoke.
We are gathered here to discuss the plan for protecting our castle and our village. Our lands are threatened, and it is our duty to defend our homes against the dragons and enemy armies that gather at our borders. First, we will double the guards on the ramparts, with constant patrols day and night. Our scouts will be deployed in the surrounding forest to spot any suspicious movements. Second, we will reinforce the castle gates with iron bars, and the inhabitants will be evacuated to safer areas in case of attack.
I can't help but worry about our people. How will we protect the village and its inhabitants from the dangers that surround us? The dragons, the enemies, they are so close. What measures have you taken to guarantee their safety? And what will become of the families, the children, if they reach our gates? Please reassure me. Tell me that everything has been thought of to protect them.
My dear Princess Elowen, I understand your concern. It is justified. Know that I have thought of every detail to protect our people. The castle walls are reinforced, and our soldiers watch day and night. The village is surrounded by solid barriers, and shelters have been prepared for families in case of emergency. Our archers are ready to defend each house, and the roads to the castle are cleared to allow for a quick evacuation. We have also planned reserves of food and water to withstand a siege if necessary. I promise you that everything will be done to keep our people safe, and that we will face these dangers together.
In the kingdom of Darnath, winter was harsh, blanketing the lands in a thick, icy blanket of snow. Yet the cold did not dampen the resolve of King Draven Darkwood and his army. The king, a wise and brave man, prepared with his soldiers to face the enemies that threatened their kingdom. Weapons were forged, horses were equipped, and battle plans carefully laid. Despite the biting winds and endless nights, men organized themselves, setting up fortified camps and training their bodies to withstand the cold as well as the fight. The once peaceful kingdom of Darneth now stood on a war footing, ready to defend its lands against any who dared invade. King Draven knew the battle would be difficult, but with the unity and strength of his warriors, he was determined to protect his people and push back the enemy, even in the dead of winter. The kingdom of Valoria, once a haven of peace and prosperity, was preparing to face one of the greatest challenges in its history. King Arathor, the respected and feared ruler of these lands, knew that external threats could no longer be ignored. His enemies, jealous of Valoria's wealth and power, had gathered at the borders, ready to invade. But Valoria had an asset that no other kingdom possessed: its dragons. These majestic creatures, ancient and powerful, were the kingdom's last line of defense. Under the king's direction, the dragons were trained for battle. King Arathor, a master in the art of commanding these legendary beasts, spent hours training them, forging an unbreakable bond between himself and his winged allies. The roars of the dragons echoed through the mountains, a warning to anyone who would dare threaten Valoria. King Arathor knew the coming battle would be fierce, but with his dragons at his side, he was ready to defend his kingdom against all invaders, reaffirming the greatness and power of Valoria.
Sky over Darneth was darkened by heavy black smoke, and the roar of battle echoed in the surrounding mountains. Princess Dirana, her heart heavy, learned the news that overwhelmed her. Her favorite dragon, the one she had raised since birth, had just been slain by the enemy army. Her fury rose within her like an indomitable blaze. This dragon, her faithful companion, had been her most precious ally, her pride and her comfort. Seeing it perish at the hands of its enemies plunged her into a deep and implacable rage. With tears in her eyes, she swore to avenge the death of her dragon, ready to do anything to make those who had dared to tear it from her pay.
Battle was fierce. The once verdant lands now stained with blood and ash. The losses were immense, each side paying a heavy price. When Princess Bayrana heard the news, her heart ached with pain. The faces of those she knew, of her faithful knights fallen in battle, haunted her thoughts. The weight of war weighed heavier than ever on her shoulders. She knew that the kingdom would never be the same again, forever scarred by the sacrifice of so many lives. The kings, princes, and princesses of these devastated lands had once dreamed of peace. The dragons, majestic and powerful, had once been the symbols of an era where kingdoms coexisted in a fragile balance. But negotiations, peace talks, had led to nothing. Distrust, old grudges, and ambition for power had made any agreement impossible. Despite the hopes of the wise and the leaders to create a truce, each attempt at reconciliation had collapsed under the weight of ancestral hatreds and desires for revenge. Now, the dragons, once protectors, had become weapons of war, and the kingdom sank deeper into chaos each day. Bayrana understood that the peace, once so close, had vanished, replaced by the harsh reality of war.